We had a new job come in today. These are the guides, blade guides, off from a large woodworking bandsaw. It's an antique saw made in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Some of the parts were missing. This was with the saw. The blade is supposed to go between these two slots here. It would be something like this, and then this backs up the blade here. So the back of the blade rides against this and spins. The cutting side is on this side over here. But this bearing just slides back and forth on this. So there's got to be something to hold this in position. And I'm not sure if all these parts are correct or not. This was bought at an auction and it was sitting on a skid, so the background is really unknown. But my plan is to use make a new shaft for this part and use this bearing. This is a 5/8 inch bore bearing. Make a new shaft for this 5/8 bore to fit on here, and then I'm going to use this disc to replace this. I'm going to bore this side out to accept this bearing. And you can see this disc is a little bit, this disc here is wider, so I'm not going to bore it clear through. So this bearing will be pressed into this, and when this is assembled, the blade will run here in this area, pushing that way, pushing back. So that should keep everything in position. Then this assembly will mount here. This shaft slides out, so I'm going to fit a new shaft. It's adjustable back and forth for I suppose different widths of blades. I'm not sure. But that was the first problem. The second problem is these blade guides are severely worn. You can see the gap right here, because this is adjustable for the width of the blades. And they're worn a lot. You can see a little bit of the screw head here. This screw head is completely worn off. And this has got a lot of grooves in it. There's just a steel plate in there, so we'll have to make some new guide plates for it. That was the top side. This is the top side. This guide is for the bottom underneath the table. This didn't have any bearing at all on it, and it's a smaller radius on the two. This is smaller than this one. So my plan there is to use a smaller bearing, the same setup, a smaller bearing in there, 5/8 bore. Then I got this piece of stock here. It's about the correct diameter. See, that fits in there. For the bottom portion of the blade guide. And these are the same way. You can see there the gap where that's worn. And this one's the same way. That screw head is completely worn off. You can see a little bit on this one. So evidently when this was aligned, it wasn't quite square in there. There's a track down here, or a gib or a key to keep it aligned, but it's not a real good fit. This side here isn't worn too bad, so evidently the blade had a tendency to ride on the outside of this piece, because the outside portion is worn a lot more, and it's also quite grooved. But I suspect if this isn't running straight, it's going to allow the blade to track back and forth like this, making a rough cut or a leading cut. It wouldn't be a nice smooth cut, I'm sure. So we're going to see if we can correct that also. This one screw on this one was worn so bad the slot was all gone. There was no slot at all in there. But I was fortunate enough, or lucky enough, probably more luck than anything, I was able to use a little punch and get this screw started so I could get that screw out of there and replace this little blade guide. And you can see that's got quite a ridge in it right there. So that's the project for today we're going to start on. A lot of these things, I'm assuming that's how they go, because the parts were missing. We put these pieces on the saw and kind of determine that's how they should work. If they don't work, we'll try something different.